Hello and welcome to Straight Talk. I'm Ayşe Süberker. The world was stunned by news that Egypt's first democratically elected president, Mohamed Morsi, died suddenly during a court appearance in Cairo. But unlike the outpouring of support seen across much of the world, the reaction from Western leaders has been relatively quiet. Could it be because many Western governments decided to back the very man who overthrew Mohamed Morsi in a military coup back in 2013? Abu Bakr al-Shamahi explains.
From a president to a prisoner, Mohamed Morsi's death in a Cairo courtroom didn't bring Egyptians to the streets. But in places like Jordan, Pakistan, and Indonesia, symbolic funerals were held, as well as protests. One of the biggest took place in Istanbul, where Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan attended a funeral prayer. Before he attended, he criticized Western leaders for failing to defend Morsi.
Demokratik bir seçimle iş başına gelen merhum Mursi'nin darbeyle indirilmesini, hapiste, tek oda, hücrede eziyet çektirilmesini ve nihayet hayatını kaybetmesini seyreden Batı dünyasını ve tüm insanlığı esefle kınıyorum.
It was a sentiment shared by the mourners who gathered at Istanbul's Fatih Mosque. The people gathered here are mourning Mohamed Morsi, but they're also angry. Angry at what they feel is the abandonment of Mohamed Morsi and the Egyptian revolution by the international community, and in particular by the West. The reaction from Western capitals since Morsi's death has been muted, and it perhaps shouldn't be a surprise. The man who overthrew Morsi, Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, has been welcomed internationally since his coup in 2013. The relationship between Sisi and the West withstood the Rabaa massacre that followed the coup, and years of human rights abuses have done little to stop Western leaders from backing Sisi.
You know, everybody follows the kind of support that Sisi is getting from international governments. He's being given the red carpet treatment everywhere, and they are doing this because they believe Sisi is doing many functions for them.
Western leaders argue that they have to deal with political leaders, even if they might consider them unsavory. In February, they gathered in Egypt for a summit, just days after authorities executed 9 prisoners whose trials activists called a sham. And in 2017, the French President Emmanuel Macron had this to say when he was asked about Egypt's human rights record.
Je crois à la souveraineté des États. Et donc, de la même façon que je n'accepte qu'aucun autre dirigeant me donne des leçons sur la manière de gouverner mon pays, je n'en donne pas aux autres.
Leaving sovereignty to one side, it also doesn't hurt that Egypt is the largest market for French weapons, and that the country is perceived as being a top ally when it comes to fighting terrorism and stopping migration into Europe. And ultimately, those factors may be the reason why Sisi is not pushed to one side by the West. Abu Bakr al-Shamahi, Straight Talk.
Now to get a closer look at late Morsi's legacy and Egypt's future, I'm joined by Egypt's former Minister of Investment, Yahya Hamet, who served in Mohamed Morsi's cabinet. Hello, Yahya. Thanks for joining me on Straight Talk. You worked directly with Mohamed Morsi in his cabinet. You knew his character, you knew him personally, you knew how he worked. So what went through your mind when you heard the news of his death and the circumstances it happened?
It was a very hard moment, getting a call from his son and my friend Abdullah, telling me, "Have you heard the news?" I said, "No, I have been abroad." And he said the news saying that my dad is dead, and all the memory just came in few seconds to my mind. How great the man is, how we are going to lose a leader that I always say this is the most honorable thing that happened to me, that I came to know Dr. Morsi, to be very close to him during this very important and unique time of Egypt's history. We have lost a man that had a real vision to his country, that was very close to the people, that have always felt he's one of them, He has never felt lofty or arrogant in any way. So I felt that those bad guys that Sisi represents, those, as you say, probably in Turkish, hainler, those people are really after not only Morsi, but after the spirit of the revolution. They wanted to kill it. I saw that what happened to Dr. Morsi is an intended slow killing.
So you believe is the state somehow culpable for him reaching this point?
Absolutely. For more than 6 years, almost 6 years, Dr. Morsi has been kept in a solitary confinement all the day, not being able to see his family for 6 years, except for few minutes, 3 times only, deprived from medication while he suffers diabetes, deprived of seeing his legal team. President Morsi, in many times in the sessions where he were given few minutes or few seconds to talk, he said that his life is in danger. Last year, an independent committee led by Crispin Blunt, an MB in the UK, they formed a committee to review the status of Dr. Morsi. They came out with a report saying that his life is in danger. And if it kept the same way it is, he will be facing immature death.
So do you believe is his death part of a broader persecution on the Muslim Brotherhood?
It's not the Muslim Brotherhood, Aisha, let me tell you. The battle that we have in the region, the kind of two camps really trying to achieve their goals, it's not between the Islamists and the states, the deep state in Egypt. It's between those who have really dreamt of democracy, of rule of law, we are having more than 60% of Egypt under poverty line.
They live on less than $50 a month, right?
Exactly, $1.9 a day. Can you imagine?
So,
60% of people. So when those people, the middle class, wanted really to achieve something for the coming generations, those oligarchy said, no, you are not allowed to do this. Egypt has been under the military rule since 1950s. And look where Egypt is now.
Do you believe the revolution is stolen? And what's next for Egypt democracy?
What we have learned from history is that it's waves. What we saw on Besh Tammuz, 15th of July here, was an accumulation of historical lessons that the people got. They didn't want to go back to the old time of oppression. This is what Egyptians now we are learning. Probably we needed to be in an easier way, but probably we are learning in the tough way. So if you say that this wave of the revolution has been suppressed from the ally of Saudi, Emirates, Trump, Israel, Sisi, I would say in a way it was suppressed, but it's not the end of the people seek for real democracy and freedom. Only few weeks ago, there were small demonstrations here and there in Egypt because of secondary school exam. It's a secondary thing. But it was led by people who are 18 and 19 years old. Those people were only 10 years old when the revolution of 2011 was there.
So the outpouring of support from countries like Turkey seems to have rattled some in Egypt. Why was Morsi so popular, especially in countries like Turkey?
Because Turkey has come to democracy after years of military rule. This is how I see it. Turkey, the whole people, by the way, and the good thing is that it's not only coming from President Erdogan, it's coming also from the opposition. It's coming from all over the place in Turkey, that what happened in Egypt is a military coup d'etat, that we want democracy in Egypt, that Mohamed Morsi was killed slowly in his cage. Turkey is very close, by the way, historically to the Egyptian people. Years and years of common historical background. And Turkey was hoping in 2011 that it has this spirit of democracy everywhere. And look, who is opposing this tone of voice of Turkey calling for democracy in the region? It's the same way, it's the same people that killed Jamal Khashoggi in Istanbul. They are the same people who are keeping the human rights activists in Saudi Arabia, in Emirates, in Egypt, where we have more than 60,000 political prisoners from all ideological backgrounds.
You're pointing to the same circles. So do you agree there was a window of opportunity between Turkey and Egypt to set up better relations when Morsi became president, and now that opportunity is completely lost because of the relations between Turkey and Egypt?
It's not that it's because of Morsi, it's because of the people, because of the window of democracy that was opened. You cannot build 100% relation with a regime that is fundamentally against you. A regime that is calling, for example, look what Sisi has done to our sea borders in the street. He gave part of our lands to Cyprus, to Greece, in order to drill for
and this
oil.
This is also against Turkey's
And this is also
claims,
against
yes.
Turkey. So it's an ally. I hope one day, definitely, that Turkey and Egypt becomes very close. But in order to bring this, we need to see it on a larger scale. Who have helped in order to deteriorate the currency of Turkey many times? I mean, fingers have been given to a lot of people in the Gulf.
What about the Western governments? They were very supportive of Morsi during the revolution, and they were very supportive of the elections in Egypt. But then they swiftly abandoned Morsi, and instead they supported the guy who overthrew him. And can you speak on why there's this deafening silence in the Western part?
Let's take a look on how they supported Mubarak regime. And then when the revolution came and won, it was only then that they started speaking very positive about the revolution. They are very, Machiavellian people, very pragmatic people. And they wanted people who follow their agenda. This is very important. I've always believed that some of the Western powers like to see weak governments that always depend on them, not on the people. The moment you depend on the people and you understand that your legitimacy is coming from your own people, it gives you power. You will never give concessions for them for free.
So Sisi is fully dependent on Western powers?
100%.
So
and look
do you
what happened in
believe
Sinai.
he is all stable, he is all safe, or is his rule... could we some challenges to his rule in the coming future? Because I think he can stay as president until 2030.
In 2010, let's say October, November 2010, if you ask anyone in the world how long Mubarak will stay, he would tell you he's staying for another decade and then he's passing the rule for his son. And it was only weeks away from the revolution. Our region is very much in instability period. All scenarios are there. From one angle, he is doing a very big oppression on the people, which shows that he is strong. From another angle, he's very weak, fearing to have only commemoration, only proper burying for Dr. Morsi, and having only 7 people from his family, sons and daughter, and his wife to pray over him. And the signals, you can see it from 2 ways. I believe that the Egyptian people and the revolution is not dead. We are living in a very bad chapter of Egypt's history, that we all hope that the sacrifice that Dr. Morsi did, that the sacrifice of hundreds of thousands of people have been doing since 2011 and before that will bring light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, Ahmed, thanks for joining me on Straight Talk.
Thank you.
Sacrificial animal. That's what a Saudi intelligence official allegedly called dissident and journalist Jamal Khashoggi, who was murdered in Istanbul last year. Those details, along with other gruesome accounts, were all included in a special UN report. Agnes Kalamart, who authored the report, pointed direct responsibility of the killing and subsequent cover-up to the Saudi Crown Prince, Mohammed bin Salman. But will this change anything? Will the renewed pressure force the Saudi royal family to come clean? Citing credible evidence, the report states that the murder constituted an extrajudicial killing that could not have happened without the Crown Prince's knowledge. And it didn't stop there, calling for the investigation of senior Saudi officials, including the Crown Prince himself. The report notes that Turkish investigators who examined the consulate found traces of a professional cleanup. Evidence, the report says, that the Saudi investigation had not been conducted in good faith and amounted to obstructing justice. But some of the report's greatest concerns centered on the possibility that Saudi Arabia might conduct similar acts in the future, where dissidents could be captured abroad. And joining me now is Levent Korkut, who's a lecturer of law at Istanbul Medipol University. And Ahmet Kasım Han, who is a professor of international relations at Altınbaş University. Gentlemen, welcome to Straight Talk, and thanks for joining me. Levent, I would like to start with you. So the Saudis have come out and denounced the reports. Will this report by the UN's rapporteur will change anything in Riyadh, or they're just going to ride out this bad press that, like they did before?
I think that it will not change fundamentally in Riyadh. The reporter this morning, I think, made an interview with a newspaper journalist. She said that the Saudi authority is dealing with me rather than the report. That shows that there is no such a serious attention of Saudi authorities to the violations indicated in the report. She also added to the journalist that she is not officially responsible person in UN.
She's dealing with the human rights issue.
Yes, she is dealing with human rights issue, and but she said that it does not undervalues what report says. She also underlines that the UN authorities, Security Council and Human Rights Council must give attention what report says.
Yes, we're going to get back to it, but you believe that nothing's going to change for Riyadh?
For now.
For now. Ahmet, Turkey has been since the beginning pushing for a full account of what happened. And Foreign Minister Çavuşoğlu tweeted, Turkey strongly endorses UN rapporteur's recommendations for elucidating Khashoggi's murder and holding those responsible accountable. So, do you believe this report will give Turkish authorities fuel to renew their campaign against Saudi Arabia so that what really happened?
Well, I think that the judicial due process and the political dimension are not necessarily two overlapping parallel processes. I would say that much of the Khashoggi case is being determined by political concerns. And the political landscape is not what it used to be at the time of the brutal murder of Mr. Khashoggi.
What has changed so far?
I think that today, despite the report, the time period between the murder itself up until now, that the report is out, showed that the Saudi crown prince is there to stay. Probably any country that is going to pursue any action against Saudi Arabia is going to take into account the fact that neither the American administration nor other powers to be in the West are genuinely interested in ousting the crown prince from the position that he occupies today. That is why I do think that as long as the political concerns are taken into consideration, as much as the humanitarian and judicial concerns, this is going to end up somewhere where it more represents the Saudi interest or Saudi preferences rather than what the law requires or what the feeling of justice needs to be served.
So, Levent, is the global community almost helpless when it comes to bringing Khashoggi's murderers to justice? Because you've mentioned an international criminal investigation should be dealt by the UN Secretary General's office, which requires a UN security resolution, and we see the United States, it's unlikely that it will vote in favor of such an investigation. So, are we helpless?
No, in fact, yes, there may be extreme difficulties. They may be politically important, but legally speaking, all lawyers know that even a dead case is not a dead case. And they should continue, I think, all authorities believing that this is a brutal thing, and UN specify the action as premeditated
Yes.
extrajudicial execution. It is one of the most serious crimes in the world.
Yes.
Therefore, the institutions, regional bodies, UN, all these institutions should deal with this problem. On the other hand, there are friendly governments. They should push the institutions to do something. There is an International Criminal Court. It is an action against humanity.
Yes.
The prosecutor of International Criminal Court, even though these countries are not side of the convention, should do something.
We'll see. Ahmet, you just mentioned the current political environment. So I want to ask you, are sanctions even possible against Saudi Arabia, given its crucial role in OPEC being the world's largest oil supplier? So they have a leverage. They could retaliate in many ways. So how would the Saudis likely to respond to sanctions if there is going to be any?
I don't think that this is even a remote probability.
No, not at all.
If you take into consideration the larger strategic picture, one dimension of which is the US-Iranian relations, and how much the United States and the global economy needs a balanced oil market today. I would say that any sanctions against Saudi Arabia is, though not impossible, very hard to really fathom. I would say that, again, political considerations and economic interests might trump over legal concerns and the feeling or the consciousness that is required for justice. I would say that I totally agree with Levent on what he has said in the spirit of the law and in the spirit of the justice to be served, really. But probably it is just this disciplinary gap that we have amongst somebody who is well-versed in law and somebody who is trained in international relations.
Very shortly, U.S. Senate has voted to block arms sales to Saudi Arabia. So do you think this would kind of put pressure on Trump to revisit his stance towards Saudi Arabia?
I would not say so.
No, you wouldn't. Levent, one thing the report stresses is that Saudis continue to use torture and other means on dissidents, that they're still pursuing them abroad. So should we be scared?
Be scared of
getting killed abroad if you're a dissident?
Yeah, the report covers some, I think, statements of the people taken as evidence, and the rapporteur says that she kept their names secret because she openly declares that she is not sure about their security. That also shows that the state is not trustable in terms of human rights violations. There are 6 violations listed by the report, all serious violations: life, freedom of expression, torture, extrajudicial killings. These are the most serious.
So do you believe, last question, if this report is not forwarded into an international investigation, do you believe this could embolden Saudi Arabia further if it is left unpunished?
Of course. One of the important points in the report, it says that the international ways and channels must be strengthened. International institutions must be strengthened against such actions.
Are you hopeful?
I am not hopeful in the short run, but in the long run, we will witness, unfortunately, this type of events, and after that, we will be forced to do it. As world states, this type of actions not prevented, the other states will also resorting to similar actions in the future.
All right, guess we have to leave it here. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me on Straight Talk. Appreciate it a lot. And that's all for this edition of Straight Talk with me, Ayşe Süberker. If you've got any comments, do share them with us on Twitter with #StraightTalk. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Until next time, take care and goodbye.